But here we have a charity worker who spends her time, energy, and devotion on scam baiting the scammers. And welcome our guest, CJ Scam, all the way from America.
I've been to India. The people that are doing this are in a very small minority, so please don't India by scammers, or Nigeria or Jamaica or any of those countries, because they are in a small minority. So I like to give that disclaimer.
I just want to learn about how you scam bait these people. Normally when we hear about charity workers, we hear about people who are raising money for those less fortunate in society. But here we have a charity worker who spends her time, energy, and devotion on scam baiting the scammers. So me and you don't get scammed. And welcome our guest, CJ Scam, all the way from America. How are you?
Hi. Great. Thanks so much for having me on. Really excited to be here.
Thank you so much for your time. And it's a very, very fascinating topic. Because I was just telling you that only recently I was on YouTube looking at all these videos where people are scam baiting these call centers. And unfortunately, a lot of them are operating from places like India. And they are really prey on people. And people are losing a lot of money to their frauds.
Yes, it's very true. And if you don't mind, I always make a disclaimer. I've been to India. The people that are doing this are in a very small minority, so please don't India by scammers, or Nigeria or Jamaica or any of those countries, because they are in a small minority. So I like to give that disclaimer. I don't want to,
It always is a small minority tarnishing the image of the majority, unfortunately. But I just want to learn about how you scam bait these people.
Okay, yeah, sure. So I started in July of 2021. And I got started because there used to be a stream where you could call in. The host of the stream would connect you to a scammer, and it would like keep your phone number private, but you could talk to a scammer. And I kind of got started like that because I didn't really know how to start. And I just like fell in love with it. It's so much fun. It's fun to talk to scammers, and it's fun to feel like just doing that little thing can help somebody. And then I've just kind of grown more independent. And so recently I had some, been sending insiders into call centers, gathering information. I've gotten a couple call centers raided. So, but I do spend most of my time still talking to scammers, trying to gather information of where they are, wasting their time, learning about different cultures, whether they do it directly or indirectly. You learn a lot from them. They learn a lot from us. So it's just a lot of fun, but more importantly, it does do some good in the world.
But when you're talking to them, obviously that's time that they are not spending talking to a real victim of that they can defraud. So you waste their time. But ultimately, they'll move on to other victims very, very quickly when you finish talking to them.
Yeah, it's very true. That's why scam baiting is very helpful. But it's like, as someone said, it's like mosquito bites. You have 100 mosquito bites, that could really take out a person. One is an irritant. So that's why we all kind of work together. The more scam baiters you have, the more good you can do, because they do move on to people. But I've definitely seen some interactions with people where people were saved from scams from this, or we've helped them recover from them, like how to report it, where to report it, things of that nature. So it's definitely doing some good. I don't think it's stopping the problem. I know people don't want to face that reality, but from my research, the scams keep continuing to increase. So I'm really trying to focus on how do we stop this problem,
I think the biggest problem is that it's lucrative. They're getting away with it. They are defrauding the people and making so much money. So there's only so much people like me and you can do apart from educate and inform people. So there
Right.
could be one person who learns about this and stops themselves from getting defrauded.
Right. And that's what we're hoping for. And we've had a lot of success in that, especially some of the original scam baiters like Kit Boga. He's educated so many people. He's been doing it for years, and he has a large audience that just watch him and learn about these scams and how not to get scammed and hopefully pass it on to others. So
Let's share a few
um,
of those pearls of wisdom with our listeners.
yeah, so definitely. So the biggest thing is to remember is that scammers always make the first contact. Okay, well, I shouldn't say always. 90% of the time, they make the first contact.
Mm-hmm.
So they're calling you, or they're emailing you, or they're texting you. So if you're getting these messages unsolicited, that's always your first sign. And even emails. You could get emails from companies that look legitimate, but if you know you haven't purchased anything and you're getting an email out of the blue, you should be suspicious of that email. The rare times where you might make initial contact is through Googling. A lot of the scammers take out Google ads. So if you Google like Facebook support, you're going to have a whole bunch of scammers come up at the top. So it's very important that you look past all the Google ads to try to find if you do need support for a company. Look past all those Google ads to the entries below. So that you don't get a scammer, because the scammers do pay for Google ads, which means that their website will be at the top, their phone numbers will be at the top, and that's the one time where you might be contacting them first. Every other time, they're going to contact you first. Of course, y'all probably know, never click any links, ever. If you get any like charges that you think might be real, you just call the bank, because let it clear your bank first, then you can dispute it. You can always dispute it after it clears your bank. You can always reach out to the company after it clears the bank, but these scammers will tell you, oh, it takes 24 hours. You don't see it in your bank account yet because it takes 24 hours. And then they'll use that to scam you. So just wait till it clears your bank. Go ahead.
It seems to be using the same names again and again, like Microsoft, Amazon, and in the UK, it's the Inland Revenue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's just because, at least in America, those are brands that we trust. So we trust Amazon. We trust Microsoft. And I think that's why they use those names, because they have to build that rapport of trust if they're going to scam you. There has to be a level of trust.
For the benefit of our viewers, especially the mature ones who may not familiar with how these scams work, so we just want to try to educate them that, let's say when you are connecting to a call center, you think you're talking to a company maybe in your own country, but it's gone to a foreign call center. How do they steal the money from you?
It can be in a variety of ways. The way that I've learned is working. One is investment scams are big, so be extremely careful where you invest your money. But two, they'll say like you need to secure your money. Your money's not safe. You need to put it into a safe account until it is safe, which is just one of their people's accounts. They'll say put it into an ATM machine, like they'll use in America we have a lot of Bitcoin ATMs. I'm not really sure who uses them, but they'll have you put money into the ATM, or they'll tell you to buy gift cards. So
okay, so let's say I get a call from Amazon. How would that work?
Mm-hmm. Well, they'll say that you have a charge for, they usually say $4.99 or $3.99. We need to connect to your computer or your phone and check out the charge. So that's always your first. Well, first of all, Amazon doesn't call people. So if you're getting a call from Amazon, you automatically know that it's not true. But if you do somehow get in some kind of call and they ask you to download something onto your phone or computer or go to a website, you should definitely hang up on them, because they're going to, right, because they're basically going to monitor your phone or computer, look at your bank accounts. They'll distract you. They'll Zelle themselves money. I don't know if you have Zelle in the UK. I think that's just in the US. But Zelle is like a way that we send money bank to bank. Like me and my dad use it to exchange money. They'll get you distracted and they'll just do it real quick when you're not looking. So it's just very important you don't download anything.
So they're basically hacking into your computer with legitimate software which allows them to remotely have full access to your computer.
Exactly. Like they usually use AnyDesk or TeamViewer, which are both legitimate companies, but they're using it for evil.
I mean,
Not good.
I'll share a story which happened to my friend, that he got a call from the bank, and the bank said that there may have been some fraudulent activity on your account. So just to win his trust, the person on the other end was able to give him his last few transactions. And then he said, okay, we need to move this money to another account just to secure it. So he made him go online, access into his account, and said, this is the sort code and account number. We're giving you a temporary safe account to transfer this money. So obviously, you know the story that this is the sort code and account number of the scammers, and they made him transfer thousands of pounds. And he told me that as soon as he did it, the penny dropped, that somebody's just called me from a withheld number. They've just made me transfer my money, and I didn't stop back just to check or ask any questions. And he said, when I said, which bank are you from? And the call went. By that time, it was too late. The money had been transferred, and the bank refused to refund him because they said, you transferred it yourself.
Right. Yeah, unfortunately that is a common script, if you want to call it that they use for a variety of things. So it's very sad. It's terrible. We've had several people in the U.S. that's even committed suicide, like they lost this money and they were ashamed, or they felt like they couldn't survive without it. So it's definitely a serious thing. And I know I talk about scam baiting being fun, but it's definitely a serious, sad issue going on in the world.
So these people haven't got a heart. They're such cold-blooded, heartless people, because they don't realize the trail of destruction they're leaving behind when they're scamming, more innocent people.
Yeah, I think a lot of them really believe. So let's say they are out of India, which those types of refund scams tend to be. The dollar value to rupee value is so different. It's around 80 times.
Mm-hmm.
So 80 rupees to $1. So they only need one payout a year almost. If they're going to get a large payout, that's going to last for a long time. And I think they really truly believe that in America, we can just go get that money back. It's not going to hurt you. America is rich. Everyone in America is rich. They could just go get that money back. It's no big deal. They'll be fine. And they have no idea the cost of living here, how much it takes to survive in America. We have plenty of poor people that are struggling. So they don't take that into account. They just think, oh, America's rich. People there are rich. They'll be fine if I take all their money.
What's sad is that they're actually doing this on an industrial scale. So it's not just UK, it's America. I'm sure there's many other countries in Europe are being targeted. And there's probably mostly English-speaking countries. And tell us any interesting stories how you've done the scam baiting.
Yeah, lots. But I will say that they are starting to target Germany a lot, because Germany, I guess the trend there is to have large savings accounts. Like America, we don't. I mean, some people do, some people don't. But I guess in Germany, it's considered like necessary to have a large savings account. So in India anyway, they've actually been learning German, and they've been targeting Germans lately. We've been finding. So,
But
and there
does
are
that
a
mean
lot of.
that they're learning the German language or targeting them in English?
No, they're learning the German language. They've also been learning the Spanish. A lot of them have been learning Spanish to go after like the untapped ones in America, because we do have a large Spanish population. So they're going the distance for sure, especially
Yes.
because Americans are getting more educated. It's probably harder than it was 5 years ago to scam an American. So they're starting to look for new
That
populations.
shows dedication to their craft. And this reminds me, back in the days, we used to get the emails mostly from Nigeria about looking for a next of kin to transfer $20 million.
Yep. Yeah, those are called 419 scams. I didn't know if you knew that. They're called 419 scams. And the reason they're called that is because that's the law in Nigeria that they're technically breaking. They're breaking a law that's like the 419 code in order to send out these emails.
I wonder if they're still common.
Yeah, very common, but Nigeria they've shifted a lot of their scam. There is a very large network in Nigeria that's all kind of under one umbrella of this like gang, if you want to call it, or this criminal mafia type thing, where they do the romance scams, a lot of romance scams, some lottery, although a lot of the lottery does come out of Jamaica and Cameroon. Cameroon is rising up right now in their scamming. They're starting to become a leader in scamming like Nigeria, Cameroon is.
Shame, really. It's like people want something for nothing.
They do, and I mean, that's the thing about that they've said about India before. Like, I could get a job at a store and work my butt off, or I could sit here all day, make one sale a month, if you call it a sale, and then they're set for the whole month or even months. So, I actually have a video on my channel where I interviewed the money mule, if you want to call it. Like, he takes the money from the U.S. and he actually converts it for the scammers into rupees through like a series of steps. And he kind of had the same excuses like, well, it's, they have lots of money. It's not my place to interrupt the scams, like those same excuses. So.
Pathetic, absolutely pathetic. So that's the same as somebody going physically stealing someone's handbag because they have a Gucci handbag. So that means they can afford it. So it makes it okay for you to steal it, does it?
Right. That's what I've been trying to tell the scammers. Like, just because even if they have it, that doesn't mean you have a right to take it.
Exactly.
So,
and secondly, a lot of these people who are victims of this type of fraud, that may be their entire life savings that you just swiped.
Right. Well, especially older people, because just last week it was, we got sometimes some of the scammers in the call center do feel bad. They will literally reach out, give us leak us some information. And we had a scammer in the call center that said they're taking this 94-year-old for all of her money. So we managed to interrupt it, but it was really, so we managed to save her thanks to that scammer. We saved her, but they were going to strip her of everything. Now, what if she needs like long-term care, health care? You know what I mean? Like, you don't know what her future holds.
That's right.
To take all that, and she obviously can't work and get it back at 94. So what kind of scumbag are you that you're going to take it from a 94-year-old?
So
but they were
share some of the stories with us then.
Yeah, sure. I have lots of stories. Lots of people losing lots of money. It's really sad, but basically, the biggest thing we like to do is once we have a scammer number, we just drive them crazy. All of us get together. We all call at the same time. We're nonstop. And we actually had it one time where a scammer started, like, he thought he was merging the calls with other scam baiters because so many of us were calling, but he was actually merging us with actual victims that were calling in. So they're literally connecting us and we're just telling them over and over, hey, this is a scam. We probably saved like 20 people that day that had called in because his dumb butt was merging us with them because he thought we were all scam baiters. So that was a pretty cool day. And I don't know if y'all know any of the scam baiters. There's a lot of great ones, but I went to the People's Call Center last year. I don't know. Did you see that at all on YouTube, the People's Call Center?
What is that?
So it was hosted by Scammer Payback, who is currently, in terms of subs, the biggest scam baiter. He has the most scam subs on YouTube, and he invited it was like a
Conference.
scam baiting. Yeah, so he invited like a handful of scam baiters, and we actually routed their calls so that when people were calling to the scammers, they were getting us instead. Like they had hacked some call centers or something.
Yeah.
So they're calling these scammers, but they're getting not me, but other ones they're getting, like, because Jim Browning was there. He's a big scam baiter. Carl Rock, if anyone is knows Carl Rock, he's real big in India and Pakistan. He's a food blogger / scam baiter. So they were calling scammers, and then they were getting basically, and I don't say this about me, but the world's biggest scam baiters on the phone instead. So it was pretty funny.
And do you think this trend is likely to continue? Are we going to ever see an end to this misery? What are your thoughts?
I'm hoping. I'm trying to figure out I'm currently getting my doctorate in business, and I'm doing my research to try to figure out where these data is being leaked, because it all starts with data. The scammers are getting data, and that's the starting point. If they didn't have the data, a lot of it would get shut down. So I'm trying to do some research to figure out where they're getting their data. Now, some of the data we know is coming from the companies. They're outsourcing like companies to bypass the do not call list. It's extremely illegal, but AT&T, for one, has had a lawsuit over it. So they try to bypass the do not call list by hiring these companies, but the companies are scammers. And
it's
they
like
end up...
my friend who got scammed, and he said the person knew his last few transactions. So it's obvious this information has been leaked from the bank.
Right. That's what I mean. It starts here. It starts in America. It starts in the UK.
Yeah.
And then, so it's a very large it's a whole network of US to UK leaking the data to the countries, and then also the money laundering that has to go on. So if we could stop some of that and take out these, that would solve a lot of the problem. And also, like I said, a lot of them is like one, like I know of one boss in India that's over like hundreds of the Microsoft call centers. Those are the people we need to take out, but they have so much money they pay the police off every time we get them raided.
So these are people who have hundreds of call centers, so they're doing these frauds on such a large industrial scale.
Yes, yeah. It's like you said, mafias, and they have them all over. And there's one group, I'll have to look up the name for you. There's a Nigerian group that's actually considered dangerous. They're a big leader of the scams. I can't remember their name right now.
In Nigeria, obviously.
Yeah, Nigeria. And then there's some in India that have the same, and they branched into Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, those countries around India. It's like kind of spreading, because a lot of the Amazon Prime scams where they pretend to be Amazon Prime are now out of Pakistan. And then a lot of the PayPal ones are out of Bangladesh. So they're kind of spreading from that area of India.
Of course, it's going to spur a lot of copycat criminals, isn't it? If they see there's a group of people making money in such an easy, quick way, so they will no doubt copy them. But going back to how the criminal activity starts in the USA, and then obviously when somebody transfers that money to another bank account, they're going to ask them to transfer them to another US account or a UK account.
Right.
Yeah. So from there, the money needs to be channeled back into the call centers because they need to be paid.
Right. Yeah. It's a large number of steps. If you are interested in that detail, I recommend the podcast Scam Likely. He goes over every little detail of how money gets what we call washed. That's why it's called money laundering, because the money's getting washed from dirty to clean. But it's a lot of steps. They do a lot. They use a lot of innocent people to do it. People that don't even know it. Like, especially, for example, India. An Indian has relatives in America, and they're sending money. They'll go to someone and say, I need to send money to my daughter in America. Yeah. They'll get involved in money laundering and not even know it, you know, because they're using a third party to try to send money to the daughter in India, or, I mean, in America, or the daughter sending money from America to India. They use a third party, and they'll be involved in them.
Do you think there's interest or appetite from the governments in these countries at that level to try and stamp out this type of fraudulent activity, or are they turning a blind eye?
I think in America there's interest on the upper levels, like the FBI. I actually know someone from Homeland Security that I report a lot of my information to. They're trying to go after the big guys. Mm-hmm. On a smaller level, local police, no. I long ago stopped calling local police because they don't help. They can't and don't help. So on the big levels they are, but they're going after big things. So the things underneath, the top are still going on while they investigate the top. So that's the problem.
The problem with this is that many people will probably pack up the operation and move on. New location, new name, new identity.
Yeah, right. Yeah, they do move a lot. I know, because for India, Kolkata used to be the main center of a lot of the scams, the tech support scams, and they have moved to more rural locations just to avoid the attention, and the police.
I suppose with the rollout of better internet connectivity, they could be anywhere in the world. Doesn't have to be in main cities now.
Right. And they do. They gather in small houses and stuff like that are less obvious than office buildings and things of that nature, Yeah.
And, long term, I mean, I personally cannot see how this activity will be curtailed because it's just so lucrative. So, I mean, any more advice that you would like to share with our viewers to ensure that they don't become victims of this fraud?
Well, the biggest thing is please, if you have elderly parents, aunts, uncles, please look out for them. I actually had a lady that told me she found out her mother was being scammed because she just asked her, who did you talk to today? And the mother was like, oh, I talked to the Social Security office. And then the daughter was like, why? Well, it revealed that she had been involved, she had been being scammed for months, but didn't tell anyone because she didn't realize she was being scammed. Wow. So just make sure you're looking after your family members. You have to ask them, what's going on with you? Who have you talked to today? You just look out for them. And like I said, never download anything. Don't buy any gift cards for anybody. If you get any emails or calls about some charge you didn't make, just wait for the bank. If anybody calls you from the bank or a credit card, hang up and call them back yourself. You have the number on the back of the debit card. Don't talk to anyone from your bank or from the credit card that called you. Call them back. And then those are some easy ways you can protect yourself.
One of the biggest red flags for anybody listening is when this caller says, don't tell anybody about this, that you are talking to us.
Yeah, and the way they'll say it is sneaky. They'll say your phone line's been hacked, so don't tell anybody. Or we're investigating the criminal, so don't tell anyone because it'll mess up the investigation. They'll say stuff like that to manipulate people. But always talk to people. Whatever's going on with you, talk to people. Ask someone if you have the son or a daughter, tell them what's going on. You can always email me and ask me, CJScams2847. Feel free at Gmail. Feel free to email me if you get anything suspicious, and I can let you know if I think it's a scam or not.
I always say, if anybody tries scamming me, look, just email me. and I will verify it and I'll come back to you. Because email, they'll be least likely to communicate with you. And then you can also tell if it's a legitimate email address from Amazon or the Inland Revenue, or it's just a bogus one.
Yeah, exactly. So, and honestly, I would treat every email as bogus, to be honest with you. Like, if you know you didn't buy anything, you got an email, just treat it as bogus. It'll clear, once it clears your bank, you can easily dispute it that way through your bank or call the company then. But if you just treat everyone like bogus, you'll be better off.
Absolutely.
And then just check your bank account.
It reminds me of a story about 15 years ago. Uncle of mine came running to me with a letter saying that he's won the Spanish lottery and he's won over €1 million. And he says, look, they've sent me a form, a letter that I have to fill and return back to them. I looked at it straight away. I laughed. I said, this is a scam. And he was actually upset with me, saying that, how can you say it's a scam? Because they've sent me an official letter. I said, Uncle, did you fill out or enter the Spanish lottery? He said, no. So how did you win it if you didn't enter it? So he said, look, and he was not convinced. He was not convinced with my explanation that this was a fraud. I'll tell you why. Because people's greed kicks in. They've probably already mentally spent that money before they receive it. That's why a lot of people fall victim to these Nigerian 419 scams. Because they have this big dream of the money that's coming in their way. And they're spending it. And when the guy says on the other end, send us a $2,000 for a legal fee so we can release this money. They think, oh, I've got $2 million coming. $2,000 is nothing. And that's how they trap them.
Exactly. So just treat everything like it's not real. Yeah, I know that's really pessimistic, but that's what we have to do these days.
CJ Scams, keep up the good work. It's been an absolute pleasure to be talking to you about this. And, keep us updated, because no doubt this is a crime that is going to continue and evolve as these criminals become more sophisticated.
Yes, thank you so much. And if anyone doesn't mind, just go over and sub to my YouTube page, because the more subs I have, the more they're going to recommend my videos to other people that might not know about scams. So, and it's free to subscribe on YouTube, so I would greatly appreciate that. And I also have a website, aspre.org, that has scam information.
Fantastic. And, keep educating and informing the people. You're doing a great work. We'll see you again. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Yeah, thanks. Bye. It was a pleasure. Thank you.
Bye-bye.